ready? So, Anneshirley, go, no go?
Let's go.
Chris, go, no go?
And we're live.
We're all systems go. All right. Anneshirley?
How's it going?
Fantastic.
It's going really well over here, too.
Welcome down to the Roadhouse again. Glad that you're being a part of something that we're doing.
It's pretty awesome being able to bear witness to the development of the Roadhouse.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, we're doing another thing.
Put that on the list.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome hearing my voice in my ears.
That's part of the gig, yeah. Part of the gig. I think we really don't have much of a plan for tonight, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. I'm glad we're in consensus on that.
Right.
So I think to begin with, Chris had talked about, we kind of talked about what the Roadhouse is, but I think we just need to introduce ourselves to begin with, right?
Let the good people know.
I agree. And, ladies first.
Okay, so hi, folks. It's Anneshirley, or you might know me as Unfriendly Black Hottie. I am obsessed with delving deep with relationships, and we're all having all of these really intimate conversations, aren't we? Yeah, and we're bringing it to the stage to you at the Roadhouse. So again, hi, folks. It's Anneshirley, or Unfriendly Black Hottie, but I don't want to take up all the space.
Well, you can, but in any case, where can that be found?
You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Yeah, where you usually tune into your podcasts, I'm sure.
Right? Yeah. Chris, AB.
Yeah. I'm
Subaquaria.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Down below. So yeah, I'm Chris AB, guitar player with the Primavera Roadhouse, Austin Freeman and the Hard Souls Band. And I produce music on my own, experimental electronic music as Subaquaria. Got a lot of opinions. Can't wait to share them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. And so I'm Austin Freeman. I am a songwriter. My band, Austin Freeman Hard Souls Band, Chris plays in. And I'm the creator and producer of the Primavera Roadhouse show, and I guess this thing as well. And other stuff that we're creating out of this neat little space we have found ourselves in this pretty extraordinary time that we found ourselves in as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you guys.
Pleasure to be here. I don't leave.
It's convenient. Something Chris and I live down here, so it's easy just to do it out of the spare bedroom, which we've now christened the Star Room. This is kind of becoming a thing with some of the original art that we've been putting together, and whatnot. So what are we doing? What is this?
All right.
Who wants to define that, clarify it, put something around it?
What is a podcast?
Okay, what is a podcast? It's the way you and I get to connect with our audiences just straight up transparently. I think there's a lot of noise going on in today's time, and the way podcasts have operated in our generation is a way to connect to the people who actually are talking about what you want to hear about, not the distractions. But that's just how I define it. I'm just a person. How do you define it?
I think that was pretty solid. I was just trying to get down to the root of it. I think that in general, discussions about a lot of topics, mm-hmm. a lot of them can be very, very, very in depth, which is something that the podcast format lends itself to more so than articles or mm-hmm. the stuff that we're used to consuming on most media platforms. And as musicians, we're used to usually condensing a message into about 3 to 5 minutes.
Right.
And being able to expound a little bit upon the kind of subjects that are important to us in a longer format is a mm-hmm. really, really exciting concept. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really, really great thing. And I'm sure excited to go about it. So,
yeah.
Austin, what gave you the idea to do this?
Which part?
Okay, so, I meant that's
a good question.
A lot of ideas. The podcast specifically. Then we'll back up and do the whole thing.
Sure. Well, so you and I moved in here a year and a half ago. Something like that. When we were consolidating, getting the band ready, looking towards recording more and hitting the road and whatnot. And then COVID happened. We'll go to all that. But in any case, so you and I live down here together. And I found that many of the things that I had been pondering throughout the day, and and lots of times is where I get the fodder for the songs that I write and whatnot, like the things that are bothering me or that I'm trying to figure out how to define. And you would be cooking or some deal like that, burning the coconut oil every single night. And and we would have these conversations, and I just thought, man, like, wow, like these are good conversations. And I'd relay that back to other friends. Well, like, man, like Chris and I were talking last night, and kind of these things we were figuring out. And then in there, I would find other like outliers, other people involved in kind of the same interaction, but around the core of what we're doing. And so that was a big part of it, thinking that would be a way for us to kind of take, like Anneshirley said, like the conversations we're already having and get it out into the greater whatever, right? So that was a big part of it. The other part of it is that I think that the Bay Area has a tremendous amount of original talent, creators of all sorts. And I think that the Bay Area is Silicon Valley. The Bay Area is a lot of wealth gap issues, a lot of that brings some negativity with it, of course, and I think the artists in this area get lost. They're not part of the news. It's not part of the thing that's going on anymore. And I think that's true of artists anywhere because of face it, like what's happened, right? Napster and so forth, and what happened after that, and how you're no longer hopping in a van and taking off and, playing shows all over the country for enough money to get to the next town.
Right.
But instead you're in this crazy competition for attention.
Well, that, and it's this, I think, a major focus and consolidation, right, to kind of the general larger media marketing machines that have all of the resources, have all of the influence.
For sure. Absolutely.
You talk about scenes in Los Angeles and New York that are still dominated by major players. And yeah, sure, you've got like Napster and streaming and all that kind of stuff, which has affected the market. But more than anything, I think it can be easier to get your name out there in some senses because there's more
an open
reach.
Platform.
Yeah, an open platform, but at the same time, you still find this consolidation where a lot of the time in ear holes and eyeballs is still kind of goes to the top.
Yeah.
Right? So that's part of it. Yeah.
Well, there's a thing about when a big name puts out a new song, the marketing machine puts it at the point that you walk into, when walking into a mall was a thing, and it will be again one day, but when you walked in, you experienced the song within so long. Like when you were on the drive to the mall, you experienced the song. When you walked into the mall, you experienced the song. Like they make sure that it's driven into your psyche. This song doesn't leave you. And that's part of that's how money affects the psyche. Like they can use their wealth to, again, attention, competition for attention. Like how did they get to you enough times to influence what you're listening to, and then it becomes homogenized,
right?
Because it's a machine,
right? There's a bunch of impressions, and then that's it. I'm sure it's probably the same in the podcast market in general, in some ways, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think back to this concept of you are the combination of the 5 greatest people next to you, right? Like all of these people pour into you. And when we think about podcasts now, we have allowed ourselves to expand our reach, right? And everyone's trying to be connected with like-minded folks, you could say. And I feel that, yes, there's a huge saturation in the market. Everyone's trying to tell their narrative, but your narrative is out there, right? Those people that you're looking for to speak to you exist. And that's how podcasts are, I think, even influencing music, dating, all of it. You're just looking for your story to be told. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
For sure.
And I think that your point about how it influences a bunch of areas of life is really important. Like
Right.
traditionally media, that is what a lot of people, you and me and everybody else, we take cues from media about our own lives.
Absolutely.
And so that can, to some extent, media culture trickles down into media, but to some extent, there's kind of a loop
Absolutely.
involved there.
Yeah.
On the point of the local scene out here and how it's harder for artists to break out or get noticed, especially considering the uphill battle that they face relative to larger marketing machines and everything like that. I think that's a good transition point to talking a little bit about the kind of overall thing that we're doing here with the Roadhouse and what that means. You guys don't mind?
Sure.
Yeah. So, as Austin talked about, there's a quite a vibrant music and arts scene in the Bay Area, San Jose, San Francisco, and everywhere in between, and places outside of that. But what we've noticed out here is, despite that amazing amount of talent, it's kind of hard for people to get it out there, right? And that's kind of what we're trying to facilitate here at the Roadhouse. And I think Austin, you can probably explain it a little better than I can. But why don't you give the people an idea about the concept behind the Roadhouse, what we're doing here?
Sure. So the genesis of it was the fact that our band was making moves and, seemed to be on a really good trajectory. And that was the plan. And we had made, certainly I had made, and my family had made some sacrifices to make that happen. And then some some things happened, and then COVID certainly happened. That was the thing that happened. And I was at a loss to how long of a setback, how much of a setback this was going to be for us. And I was doing a lot of calculus. I was doing a lot of life calculus and thinking, I'm not digging this. And then one Sunday, I think we played just outside, right? Like just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, I think it was just, we sat up there and kind of rehearsed.
Right. Yeah. We just set up outside and just like, we got to play.
To back up, we live on a vineyard.
Yeah.
That's important.
It's a cool place. That's true. Like our neighbors are our friends. They'll be a part of this thing inevitably.
There's the outdoors. We're surrounded by nature. There's a river that runs through the property about, I don't know, 150,
we're very
200
fortunate.
feet away.
We are very fortunate.
So we were able to do that. There's this barn right outside the house, and that was where we set up to practice that one time or to play. Right. It was, and there was power and everything coming from the house set up, and it was great.
Yep.
It was an awesome vibe. Right?
Well, we needed it. I mean, when you perform, you got to perform. I mean, you have to do it. But so anyway, I was thinking, the following weekend, I was drinking coffee, standing out there thinking, what the heck are we going to do? Like, how's this thing continue? And I looked over at that barn and I was like, I'm going to build a stage. And I literally put my coffee down, got in the van, drove, bought the stuff, and started building the stage. And then
I remember I woke up a little late that morning.
Surprising.
Austin's an early riser. It's like, it's not even me waking up that late. It's like this man's out there running marathons or something like in the mornings. No, but I wake up, kind of rub my eyes and everything, and up rolls the van, and out comes Austin, sunglasses on, pulling on the gloves. We're building a stage. Well, all right, let me get my coffee. So I think there was 2 panels, right, that day.
Yeah.
And then I had a couple friends come over that day, and we were kind of like hanging out. I think that might have been when Paige brought over the acrylics for the first
might
time.
have been, yeah.
And they're out painting.
Yeah.
And then
that's right, yeah.
I'm out there with the drill, like, you're making measurements. It's fantastic.
Making measurements. So we did that. But what it developed into, I mean, there's more to the story, no doubt. But what it is developed into, and to answer the question or what you proposed earlier, is I just by knee-jerk reaction, and this was before some of the, restrictions were a thing, but in any case, invited other songwriter friends and musicians that that I know in the area, that we know in the area, and told him what we were doing and saying like, hey, look, there's an outside space here, that you can spread out. We can be smart about what we do, and we can keep playing. I mean, it's not a venue. There's not an audience. It's like we live here, we're our own social bubble. And then you guys can do the stage. We film the thing. That's the purpose. The purpose is to film it and put it out. And I don't want you playing any of the covers. Like, I want you doing your tunes. Like, I called you because I like your tunes. Let's put your music out there. And then that's what we're doing down here. Again, like circling back to part of what I want the podcast to be, which, by the way, I've already talked to Zach, and Zach is good for next week.
Oh, he's going to be great.
Yeah. Freitas,
can't wait.
We get Zach Freitas out here
Wonderful.
next week.
Cool.
But to showcase these artists and showcase also visual artists as well, on this thing, and anyone who's creating, and anyone with ideas. Like, I've got, I was on the board of a nonprofit that was based around, helping people become advocates for their own health and stuff like that. I know Eric would love to come down here and talk on this thing. And we have, we're in Silicon Valley, we're in the Bay Area. Like, there's an expert in anything here. Mm-hmm. So I think you can expand beyond that. And of course, we talked about the perspective thing as well, and that kind of playing into what we do.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. I agree. The response so far from people that have come and played has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I think that you went into this with high hopes, and as did I, but just this summer and doing the almost 20 episodes that we did, and the amount of talent, and again, unsigned artists entirely,
right.
All original music,
right.
And just the amount of talent and the enthusiasm that we saw was just absolutely amazing.
It has been. There has been a lot of positivity around this. A lot of positivity
and that's
around
the thing,
it. It's
the
exciting.
Positivity.
Yeah,
man.
no, it's really exciting. In a year, like consider what we did in what a lot of people would consider to have been one of the worst years in recent memory.
That's what I hear on Facebook a lot.
Absolutely. And it's like in the face of all that, we continued to, I think, intelligently, continue to do what we do. As a matter of fact, I think it's the best shows of my life, some of the best shows of my life we played out there.
Yeah, concurred. And safely, too.
Yeah, right.
And that was the best part of it, is because it was still a safe environment. The people could come, and
there was the jazz band that wanted to come down here, all of mostly, slightly elderly people. And we we're like, you make all the guidelines, and they made a point to, of course, at a distance, but to thank us for saying, wow, thank you for making us feel safe. This is the first time these guys have been able to play in months. I think like 6 months or something like that. I'm sure they haven't been able to play since then. So really, it was an honor to have the space and the whatever to make to build the stage so that there was a place to keep bringing music. And like one of the greatest feelings is when we hear like the neighbors like across the way and down, and like hearing people that live down the way that hear it and support it. That one guy that lives a half mile away and said he opens up his garage door every time we play and plays along with us. He's like ripping on his guitar in the garage. So it's really exciting. A lot of positivity around this.
Absolutely. That's great. And one of the wonderful positive people we met was Anneshirley.
Absolutely.
So why don't we talk about that a little bit? How did you first become acquainted with the Roadhouse, I guess?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So last summer, I think it was towards the end of the shows, my friends and I were suffering from, I guess we could say, quarantine fatigue. Just we needed activities to do, basically. And she is one of my really good friends, knew a person who knew a person about one of these shows that are happening down here. And we came through one evening, and I was absolutely floored. Like, here's the thing, right? Imagine spending the last 6 months locked up in your room, and then you're just in this bubble, this safe space with professional lighting and musicians who are.
Thank you, Lucas Ward.
Oh yeah, shout out. We appreciate you. It literally takes you from this mundane 9 to 5, just constant boredom, into an entirely different experience, right? And anyway, So I came to the show and I saw y'all perform live, and I was just blown away with the production and the musicians and the storytelling. And it's a safe place. I don't know how else to say it other than like it was magical. One of the highlights of my summer. Given 2020, right, was wild for everyone. I just really admired everyone putting in good faith effort to produce something of high quality, and to be witness of it. It was just dope. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
Awesome.
humble flex.
That's great. Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah.
So actually, let's just talk about music a little bit, guys.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to start this thing off. So I guess in general, since we're talking about things in the context of the Roadhouse, and you were just speaking about the way that things went this summer. And what's your experience with live music? I guess, and that could be in the Bay Area in general, or the concerts you've gone to anywhere, big stuff, small stuff. What does live music mean to you?
That's such a wonderful question.
Yeah.
Live music is where you get to actually participate in something that is being, how do I say this, alive. I mean, let me take a step back. I've been to the Art Boutique in San Jose. Went there to listen to live music. Loved it.
Bottom.
Shout out to you too.
Yeah, great venue.
Awesome. I have also been to really large venues as well. And you can get lost kind of in really big venues.
Sure, yeah.
And what I mean by lost, like you want to connect with the artist. You want to be in the audience with people you're enjoying music with. Not in the nosebleeds, just like with a whole bunch of strangers.
Yeah.
You've been to...
Somebody's holding their phone up in front of your face and
Come
you're
on,
like trying to like look by it and everything.
Such a distraction, right?
Sure, yeah.
So, live music to me is just an entire experience where you get to really connect, not just with the artists, but the audience who's going down this road with you, if that makes sense. And I love that experience. It's kind of like escaping into a world that's just for you, and it's a home feeling outside of home. I mean, I'm using all of these words to describe how much I love live music. But if you're a real fan, you know how it feels like to just hear the drums. Hear
Home
people.
is a great word.
Yeah.
I like that's good. And just being in, like you said, like a world that's just for you, right?
Safe place. Yeah.
Is that a world that's created by the artist or the performer, or is it a world that's kind of created by your interaction with the performance? What's that mean to you?
I would say it's definitely the artists who set the scene, but it's also the audience that participates in that scene. Mm-hmm. It's production who sets the mood for you. It's a relationship. And all these different players are in this mix, making this thing. And being part of a live audience, you get to be part of the mix, so to speak. Does that answer your question? It's definitely the artist, but we're all in this, I think.
Yes,
yeah.
That wholly answers my question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if I may, you're right. Like it starts, everything has to have that first thing, right? If the basis of it is not all that great, then who cares about the rest of it, But yes, each element of it really does play into the experience. That's why EDM is it's like such a thing, right? Because you can engineer so easily. That is the wrong way to put that. But you can put together in essentially perfect syncopation all these elements and control them very closely. Mm-hmm. Where playing with a live band, you've got to, everyone relies on everyone else to do their part to bring it forth. And so mm-hmm. I think, in my opinion, when you talk about live music, again, EDM's awesome, don't get me wrong. But it's like when, and as a matter of fact, we even kind of been talking about a little project on that. But seeing a group of musicians using vibration, right? Using organically made vibration in syncopation with each other, and the lighting is right and the sound is right, then the audience can completely transcend. Right, you're willing to do things you would not otherwise do. You know, like it pushes you through this moment, and I love it. Yeah.
That's exactly why live music is where it's at and why it's important and needs to be sustained.
It is important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chris, you like from the there's the spectator side, but like the performer side as well.
Yeah, I guess I'll take that one. So that's really what I'm after.
Always.
Yeah.
I built a stage, man, in the front yard.
Yeah. It's playing live music for an audience, an engaged audience, remains probably the best feeling, at least for me, that I've had in my life. And that was something that I experienced fairly early on in high school. Putting together this benefit concert for like a senior project. And I had played a couple other shows before and everything, but this one was really the first one that really, really stood out. And there was this sense of energy that existed that was a back and forth between myself and the other people I was playing with, as well as the audience. And it was palpable. And that is something that is one of the most unique, transcendent possible experiences I think that can exist in the world. There are other ways to get it through art or, plenty of other ways. But music, live music, and the performer-audience relationship is certainly a conduit for that. And the more of that I'm able to do and bring into the world, and the more of it that exists in the world in any case, I think is incredibly important. It's paramount. And yes, so that's I guess that's why I've dedicated the last several years to bringing more of that into the world as well.
Performers need to perform, and they should perform, and they should be supported.
Should be supported. Yeah.
And I'm not I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything right now.
Support your local band.
No. I mean, like just show up.
Yeah.
Just subscribe, just give half a shit, that like that if you care at all about what someone is creating, like think about, I won't name names, but there was a band that played down here, and one of the significant others of one of the musicians, she said, I've seen them play at this place, I've seen them play at this place, I've seen them play like 6-7 different shows. I've never seen them play like they played tonight,
Right.
And so that, I think, comes from a sense of them feeling supported by their fellow musicians, right? Kind of a tribe kind of a thing. And I think we'll end up talking a lot about tribe on this show, I have no doubt.
Probably.
But it is, I think that what I wanted to invest money in, invest thought and time and effort into was making a performance space, because it's not a venue. It's not for a guest audience that comes down here or anything. It's for the performance, to capture that performance of original music and try to help support those musicians mentally, and emotionally, so that they feel comfortable doing it.
And that's a huge part of it, right?
It is.
I think that when you say that, number one, that they felt comfortable around other musicians, I totally agree.
Yep.
Right. What makes a good show, like we said, there's a performer-artist relationship, and that has to be there. But it doesn't have to be like you're playing to 100, 1,000 people, whatever.
Right.
If there's the right vibe, if you've got the right mix going on, you could be playing to one person or 0 people, as we have before. I know you know. Yeah.
Right. I think one of the things I love about this stage, the way the lighting is that once the lights are on, the sun's down, you can see the stars, and then just nothing, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter if anyone's there or not.
But you can feel it.
Oh, you can.
You can feel it.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
sure.
So that's the
energy's there.
Yeah, that's the cool thing.
Yeah.
Like you really can.
You can.
And there were nights that it was like, and this is true, I think, for performing in general. There are nights when everything is just firing and going right,
Yeah.
and that's when the real stuff happens and everything. And then some nights are good, but not quite
Sure.
like that, right? Maybe you're playing in a bar and there's TVs on in the background and people are watching the latest sports ball game.
Right.
There's nothing
And-
like playing a good, like, heartfelt ballad and just like,
And then somebody starts cheering and clapping, and you think it's for you, but then you realize that somebody just
Yeah,
like
the Niners scored, man.
Yeah.
No.
But actually, we should have some athletes on here too.
I
I have
agree.
a lot of respect for all of that kind
my
of stuff
God.
because the amount of focus and dedication it takes.
dedication. Woo.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but this is not a sports podcast.
True.
There are plenty of those. But yeah, so it's the audience to performer relationship, and then it's certainly having artists be comfortable in their environment.
Yep.
And I know you've had experience with this. I certainly do too. There are so many places that you will go play where an artist, band, whatever, will be treated like it's not even like an employee relationship. It
is almost like servitude.
it is. It's like,
Yeah.
they treat you
That's a
like
strong
they
word.
treat you at the bottom. That's fair.
It
yeah.
is. Well,
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that is extreme.
Yeah.
I apologize, but it does feel as though you are less than.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a lower than
It's
an
like, great,
employee.
you're
It's lower
another-
than a customer. It's a service provider, but not even one that is respected as much as
Right.
a distributor of the Cisco plastic forks that are given out by the place. You know,
Which I'm
it's,
sure are good people.
Oh, nothing wrong with Cisco.
Absolutely
Yeah, well,
nothing.
they could probably do more to improve the
The
recyclability
waste
and
and
the waste and
aspects like
everything.
that.
But that's
sure.
for a different
another
episode.
one. That's another
Yeah.
one.
Question,
Add that to the
though.
list.
Ooh, yes.
Do you think that detached relationship is what kind of perverts the purpose of even playing? If you're if the environment for the artist is just a bar, do you lose the desire to play music?
Nah.
No, right?
Because performer has to perform.
Performer has to
That's the
perform.
easy way of saying it.
Well,
It's
yeah.
like a biological imperative.
Yeah, I mean, like playing music for people is a blessing and a essential societal function. I think that's existed since we were, banging rocks together.
Right.
In little tribal, not tribal circles, but like small communities and roving hunter gatherer communities. This is something that is inherent to people in general. I think that just by virtue of playing in a bar or any venue like that, there's no barrier to entry for transcendent moments to happen. That has a lot more to do with intention and, environment. But you can have people getting the good stuff at your local dive bar
Right.
if things are popping the right way.
Yep.
That's the thing. So no, I don't think the venue itself doesn't have any, well, it can have an effect, but it doesn't dictate one way or another.
It can have an effect,
Yeah.
but it's a risk mitigation thing, right? It's like it's the reason why cover bands and DJs and things like that get a lot of space is because they're going, well, I know if they're playing this, people are going to drink, right? They're going to buy my product. And that's what they're sitting there weighing out. I don't know if this original band who shows up is going to keep people around, if they're going to split. And so it's a risk
Right.
mitigation type of a thing.
I think
Right.
that, for
Right,
original
absolutely.
bands to get paying gigs around here is extremely difficult. Right? The cover band scene, I mean, you can do just fine doing that.
Do corporate stuff and make
Tons. But original music, I think in general is just a little bit less first or paramount in this scene, I think, in a lot of other kind of local scenes. And that's something that I've kind of been wondering about in general is like, why is it that obviously people like, cover music because it's familiar and everything like that, right? But there's this thing that I've been playing with lately in my head of this idea that stuff that's already kind of out there or supported by a record company or anything, it's got this air of legitimacy to it, right?
I agree.
Sure.
Whereas if you're just listening to a local original band, there's so much more to prove, right? Where it's like it's like when you're listening to music that's on the radio, even if it's the first time you've heard it, it still comes in this nice plastic packaging for you. That's like, like a metaphorical plastic patch.
No, I got you.
But it's coming through the radio or Spotify
channel,
through Spotify through a playlist that's already, is going to be a level of quality.
Right.
And people are used to setting aside their own discernment in order to just say like, okay, this is coming from this channel that I'm aware of or whatever, and therefore it's going to be like pretty good.
Right.
It's easier
We're in a
just
rating
to say
and
that.
review world.
Yeah, it's easier to exactly. It's easier for somebody to say, hey, this is why you should like this thing, right? Rather than to independently evaluate it. And I think that's true for, pretty much any type of media, right?
Absolutely.
But music in general. I mean, shoot, I guess you could say the same about art, art house films and independent films and everything like that as well, or independent art. People are going to like the stuff that's already pre-approved for you. But that is what we are trying to fight against here, I think.
Exactly.
Precisely.
Because I mean, seriously, we found so much good stuff, so much stuff that I still listen to over.
I agree. It's stuff I go to. It's what I write and I work to this stuff, and it's our friends now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
People that we didn't know existed before. That again, it's like there's the real paradox or the crux of it all is that, and this is one of the things I want to talk about social media being being pimps. But it's like there are artists who, through having this open space and platform, I won't even say game, I would just say we're able to present what it is that they do and find success very quickly that is unique music that otherwise might not have been looked at by a big label, right? And those bands historically have been game changer type bands, and they really had to fight, like more than you have to on YouTube, I think, or maybe not. Maybe I don't know the difference. I don't know what the difference is between like Nirvana getting onto Sub Pop versus anyone getting on Spotify. Like I don't know. I don't know. But I think that is part of the crux is there is so much noise out there because the platform is open, which is great because the platform's open. But how do you rise above the noise?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think creating a collective environment like this is a pretty good start.
Generating our own brand and just doing the thing seems to be a good solution for us.
And also for the artists again that we brought in, and that's I think a big part of it is this collective reinforcement of the fact that you are a kick-ass musician, kick-ass performer, and all this stuff, and it gets that seal, not seal of approval, but like that kind of reinforcement, because I think to be an artist these days, to be an independent artist is tough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You don't have the support necessarily. I mean, of your close fan group and everything like that, but I think that it can be difficult. Right?
I am going to do one shout out because it's a little story about you, but when Strange Fiction came and played and we had that really fantastic jam night after that was a top jam night of my life.
Yeah.
One of. But I remember you telling them, you're like, man, you guys are like a kick-ass band. And Nick is like, you know what? Yeah, we are.
Yeah,
like,
we've
we
got
really
great
are a kick-ass
songs.
band.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
And Sarah, I don't know how many times we went through just editing that. Like, we would get lost. Like, we'd forget about making the cuts on the video because we'd be just listening to the songs, just taking it in one more time. It's like, oh shit. Like,
and that night there were plenty of those moments when they were playing, when me and Tori and the girls from Catalyst we got up there and danced in front of the stage.
Everybody's going at it. Lucas got a shot of that.
Everybody looked at each other and it was like, I want to dance to this. This is really good.
And that's it. Like, and that's what, lots of times when people ask me about songwriting, other songwriters, like I'm always like, okay, like what does it do? Like, does it make somebody want to cry? Does it make somebody want to fight? Does it make somebody want to move? Like that's one of the key things, right? It's like if when you're creating music, what you present has been proven several times over again. It doesn't even matter what you're saying over top of it. If people are moving to it, then at some level you have made, for lack of a better term, penetration, right? You've gotten into them enough that without thought, they start to move because of what you have created, like what you've brought forth. And that's and then what do you do on top of that, right?
Well, yeah, that's the rhythm. That's the groove.
That's the rhythm, the R&B, man.
And that's what people are craving when you're talking about like authentic relationships. The audience understands that there's a lot of distraction too. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of like cookie cutter stuff that just doesn't move you, right? And so what makes this place so amazing is that you get that authentic connection. Like you get to actually feel it. You connect with the music in a way that just all of the fluff doesn't connect with you. Yeah.
Good point. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is for any venue, or particularly for this one? What helps the noise get cut away or the fluff get cut away?
So
Will you pull the microphone closer to you?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So essentially, when you're coming here, you don't feel like you're coming into a venue space. You feel like you're coming into a home. You feel like you're coming into somewhere where you can like get something that's real, right? And sustainable. Like you want to feel music. You feel like you're going to get it here, specifically at this space, based off of all of the relationships that you're witnessing in real life. They're authentic, right? So that's the first, like, okay, this person knows this person, this space means something to this group of people. Like you bear witness to, like, okay, this is not just a regular schmegular cookie cutter place where I'm just going. No, this means something. Yeah.
That's cool.
That is a great point. I didn't really think it's funny hearing that from not an outsider at this point, but you coming to to have seen it as an audience member, somebody that's not a member of our wonderful crew.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those interactions and everything that happen. I think it's worth mentioning that we've got a team of really dedicated, awesome people are making the show happen, as well as making things happen tonight.
Yes, two of them are with us. The two anchors are with us right now.
Yes.
Sarah Taylor and Lucas Ward.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. Doing everything. Our camera crew for a good chunk of last season.
Yeah, Sarah is multi-purpose. She's the associate producer of the show. She's the camera operator. She's essentially the director. She's directing this tonight. So yeah, and Lucas is done. He's in charge of our lighting. A photographer friend of ours, Kim McCain, came and he wanted to do some. He was invited down here by our drummer, and he's done a lot of great photographs. And he came and he's like, "Would you mind me I did the lights, like I know." Yeah, I don't know. Just like pop it. I don't know. Good. Can you see by his face or not? Let's go.
God, I remember the first night, like one of those can lights was just right up in my face. So every time, I think I still have burn in from the UV. But every time I look at it, I couldn't see my fretboard for about 10 seconds or so. So it became
love it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, then Ken asked if he could get someone to advise.
We got.
He did it very gingerly, very respectfully, But I was like, yeah, absolutely, man, please. And so Lucas came down here and he's put all of our lighting together for stuff that we do for the rehearsal space, which we're going to also note. We're going to have Zach Freitas next week, right? So we're going to have our first performance. They'll be performing out there when we have performances. So we need to kind of figure that set out as well.
That's happening next week?
Yeah. When are we doing it? Are we doing it next Monday?
Monday? Oh.
Again? Is that the idea right now?
There's a performance happening next week out there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just Zach.
This is news to me. Is it a part of the podcast?
Yeah.
On Monday. Okay. Yeah. Cool. It's news to me.
Oh yeah,
it's news to me too.
Right.
So yeah,
right. I know, like we haven't really formalized like the idea, but I think what we talked about, like bringing on anyone that we want to bring on to be a part of things. Obviously, the musicians being a big part of it because that's our network, and letting them do their thing, either as a band or as a solo, whatever, and then having them and talk to them and then doing the perspective thing that I mentioned as well. And I think it's kind of a good time to transition to that. And I want to also, because I mentioned Monday, because this is Monday right now. So this is the 18th. This is Martin Luther King Day. We should mention that.
Oh, yeah.
An amazing man. But this will be released on Wednesday, which in our decision making and all of our exuberance from our meeting on Saturday is also Inauguration Day.
Oh.
And so my perspective question to you guys is, when we release this on the same day as Inauguration Day of 2021, what are the other headlines of videos that we're going to be releasing alongside?
Vice News live from Inauguration Day special. Huffington Post live from Inauguration Day special.
Yeah, right.
BuzzFeed, Listicles top 20 Joe Biden gifts. Shall I go on?
So that makes it really important to release something, right, that at least communicates a shift in the mood, because that's kind of the media that people will be looking at. So got to pay attention to those hashtags, right?
Do you think that will happen? You think that the headlines will be showing that paradigm shift?
I think people will try to create hashtags that take this as a moment.
Hopeful day, wonderful day, new beginnings,
thank goodness.
Aquarius.
I think it's going to be
Pass out
less.
2020,
I think it's going to be less
something
like
like-
new beginnings and more of just a sigh of relief, at least as far as the narrative goes. You don't get the same. Well, at least so far, I haven't seen the same sense of elation that there was in 2008, for instance.
Oh,
right,
no.
with Obama.
Oh, no.
There's
No.
this is
No.
It's not really.
It's not that.
You're not hearing this.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's
We're not in that
it's-
world.
Well, yeah, it's not a hope and change thing. It's a
No.
get back on track kind of thing. I think that's my sense of the narrative, at least.
I agree with
Agreed.
that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Which is kind of a shame. But
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
kind of a
it's been a
shame.
waste of
Yeah.
4
Yeah.
years that, okay, here you go. Here we go, Chris. We've had a little bit of this conversation before. And it is the look at my beautiful assistant in the bikini while I steal your watch thing, right? It's like in the last 4 years
yeah.
of insanity that has been our political world in this country and in other countries. If that is a distraction, like what's the real motive? What's been going on that we haven't been getting any news in this country on, that we haven't been putting any eyes on, or what has been the excuse, much like the Patriot Act of 9/11, right? Like what's the excuse that's been going on in these past few years that we're not going to find out maybe for a little bit and the harmful effects thereof?
Well, I mean, there's plenty of world events that are just not part of the news cycle right now. Probably the biggest one that I think is important is the violence going on with Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Right, absolutely.
Supported by the
And
Turkish government.
you're telling me about
And
this the other day.
Yeah, and this was a couple months ago, and of course, like System of a Down released some songs about it and everything like that. But
Right.
I think there's
Music.
Yes,
Music bringing the message forth
there's
when the
plenty of-
media will not.
There's plenty
Exactly.
there's plenty of stuff that you can just look at world news and world events for too to understand that it's you don't even have to look very far to see stuff that we're being distracted from. I mean, maybe there is kind of stuff under the table, but at this point I'm almost less interested in looking at that as I am at just getting a global perspective again about politics, because this whole crazy election cycle and the last 4 years has kept people completely focused on the American system and not things that are going on in the world globally, as well as our participation in things thereof, military interventions, Syria, all of these sorts of things. So now I'm not sure if that's going to change or get any better right now, or after Inauguration Day or anything like that. But there's plenty of stuff that's right out there already that we can look at and learn about and talk about that, isn't under the table as well. So,
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
But we feel like a positive end to the 20th.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good. Is this a good time to do a positive end to this show?
I think that kind of wraps things up.
Our first attempt,
Yeah.
our first thing. And so we're going to put this out on Wednesday. Of course, I don't know why I'm announcing it. We'll be putting it out on Wednesdays.
Hey, everybody, on Wednesday.
Yeah. At this point, it'll already be past, whatever. So we'll be putting out 6 p.m. on Pacific Standard Time on our YouTube Roadhouse channel, Primavera Roadhouse channel. One thing to mention real quick is that we have our first featured artist up here on the wall for this month, someone I know very well, Christina Freeman. We'll be putting up different pieces of art from different artists each month, and hopefully different pieces of art from each artist per month. In other words, maybe 3 to 4 pieces for each featured artist, if that made enough sense.
Cool. I look forward to seeing some featured artists
Yeah.
too. We've got so many talented friends.
Yep.
Not to brag.
Just go for it.
No, it's special. It's exciting. Okay, guys. So yeah, that's it. Anneshirley, thank you.
I thank you. I appreciate the invite, as always.
That's going to be great. Chris?
That's all I got.
I'm sure I'll see you in your boxers later on. All right. Peace out, everybody. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys.